Project 2025 is back, and it's not just a campaign issue. Now it's a governing agenda for Donald Trump's next term. Welcome back to Democracy Docket. I'm Mark Elias.
And I'm Paige Moskowitz. Let's get started. Mark, for months now, we have talked about Project 2025 and the dangers it poses to American democracy. Now, this is the Republican playbook for its next administration. Some highlights include dismantling the Department of Education, turning the Department of Justice into a personal attack dog, cutting civil servant jobs, enabling mass deportations. Now, Trump's nominations for key cabinet positions make it pretty clear that this is the direction the Trump administration will be going in.
Yeah, Paige, let me first start by saying Democracy Docket was all over Project 2025 when a lot of people were saying, oh, don't worry, that's just a think tank document and Donald Trump has disclaimed it. You guys were covering it for what it was, which was a blueprint of what was to come. And boy, oh boy, when you look at these nominations, has that turned out to be true? I mean, from top to bottom, we are seeing Project 2025 authors like, for example, the proposed chair of the FCC actually authored part of the 2025 document, to people like Linda McMahon, who, is no friend of education. And as you point out, is now in charge of an agency that Project 2025 wants to dismantle, turning the Department of Justice into the personal legal operation and retribution operation of Donald Trump. Well, who better to execute that than Matt Gaetz? Now he's dropped out, but but it certainly shows the influence of the philosophy of Project 2025. And of course, mass deportations. I mean, these are just some of the items that were in that document that we are now seeing spring back to life. My advice, by the way, to everyone watching this, if you are not already, make sure you are signed up for Democracy Docket. It has, like I said, been covering this Project 2025 issue from the beginning and will continue to hammer day and night. While other news outlets are showing fear, Democracy Docket is a fearlessly pro-democracy outlet. The links to subscribe are in the show notes below.
A key part of Project 2025 is to reinstate Schedule F. Now, this would strip away career protections for tens of thousands of federal employees, making it easier to fire them. Now, when you take that combined with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's new role in the administration as leading the Department of Government Efficiency, or the DOGE department, it's very clear they want to strip down the size of the federal government, eliminate tens of thousands of jobs, and make it easier for the Trump administration to just plow through with policies that are undemocratic and likely unconstitutional.
Yeah, and I think you want to start with that last point, which is that Donald Trump is not trying to reduce the government workforce to make government better for the American public. He is not even dressing it up in the rhetoric that we oftentimes hear from Republicans about creating a more responsive, more nimble government that, works better for the American people. He wants to fire career people so that he can replace them with his own cronies. Right? This is not about how do we make the civil service more responsive? This is about replacing the civil service so it's actually less responsive to the public and more responsible to Donald Trump. The whole idea of this fake government efficiency department, because it's not actually going to be a department, it's just going to be these guys doing what they're doing and telling Donald Trump what he should do. It all is premised on an idea, which is part and parcel of Project 2025, that somehow the president of the United States can ignore congressional enactments of how money is spent and simply refuse to spend money on things that he doesn't agree with, perhaps redirect it to other things. I mean, this is a recipe for old-fashioned cronyism, not for government efficiency. And so we all have to be clear that Project 2025 was never about serving the American people. Project 2025 has always been about serving the elites that are in the MAGA movement, the elites that fund Project 2025 and other reactionary programs like it, and imposing on the American people a series of very unpopular policy choices, like banning abortion, right? I mean, this is not an agenda for the American people. It is an agenda for Donald Trump to impose his will on the American people.
And I think people tend to forget exactly how the federal government operates, especially in the executive branch. Like, Mark, for each agency, you have the top officials, the secretary, the deputy secretary, some administrators, some of which are Senate confirmed, other are just political appointees. Those people typically align with the policies and political party of the president. The people who actually carry out the functions of government, who cut Social Security checks, who make sure that Medicare and Medicaid can run, who actually distribute those funds from government programs and do the day-to-day operations of governance are career civil servants who have very strict rules about hiring, promotions, bonuses, all based on merit, trying to take any bit of favoritism, cronyism, nepotism, any of those types of personal biases out of it, so that the government is full of people committed to the goals, committed to actually run government, who aren't affected by the political churns in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. And so what we have seen over the course of the last century is a move towards government on the merits, right? The idea that what we want is policies that are good for the American people, and we want to hire people in the federal government who are experts in those areas and who have no agenda other than advancing the interests of the government of the American people. Now, look, I'm not naive. I understand the way that in Washington, D.C., you have special interests that gain power, and there's a lot of discussion about agency capture and the role of money in politics. I get all of that. But what Donald Trump is talking about and what Project 2025 is talking about is taking it to a whole different level. It is not about the fact that you have a former lobbyist now in a position, in a political position, overseeing an agency. It is about literally purging the agency of the non-political staff and replacing them with lobbyists for those agencies, for those industries. It is replacing people who are experts in climate science with people who are loyal to Donald Trump and whatever Donald Trump says about climate science. And it's replacing the people at the National Weather Service who are experts in hurricanes and meteorology with people who will say whatever Donald Trump wants them to say about the weather. Now, that may sound fanciful, but that is what this is about. This is about replacing government on the merits with government by cronyism. And it is very, very dangerous. But it has always been at the core of what Donald Trump wants, because he wants vengeance. He wants his will to, he wants to be a dictator. And it's also at the heart of what Project 2025 wants, because they want to impose policies that do not reflect what the American people want. They do not reflect what is best for the American people. And this is the best way for them to do it. But look, there are groups that are fighting back about this. And I want to leave people with some good news, because it's not all bad. There are organizations like Democracy Forward. This is a nonprofit organization I helped found, and I chair its board to this day. After Donald Trump came to power in 2017, and they bring litigation to make sure that Donald Trump and his cronies are not breaking the law, are not cutting corners on how things have to be done, and are not doing unconstitutional things. It is a litigation first outfit that does tremendously important work. But there are other organizations, groups like the ACLU have already announced that they're going to challenge unconstitutional and illegal policies of the Trump administration in Project 2025 around immigration and elsewhere. So people can't give up. And I understand the cynicism that there is, because we get lots of comments at Democracy Docket page about the concerns about the court, and particularly the Supreme Court. But you know what? Democrats, as we speak, are confirming more and more judges to the federal courts. And most cases don't go to the U.S. Supreme Court. Most cases are decided by the trial courts, the district courts, or the courts of appeals. And those courts, thanks to President Biden and Democrats in the Senate, have more good, fair-minded judges than ever before. So, all is not lost. Now is not the time to give up the fight. Now is the time to recommit to the fight. And if you want to be informed about that fight from a pro-democracy news outlet that does not bend a knee, does not bow and scrape, does not engage in anticipatory obedience to Donald Trump, now is the time to go to Democracy Docket and give them your support by becoming a paying member. The link to be able to do so is in the show notes below, and I hope you do that. Thanks for joining us in this episode of Democracy Docket. We'll see you next time.